We love her. We love her husband. Well, there was one we need. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, I haven't said about the image, right?
Paul.
And I'm not even.
There we go.
He was supposed to be, but he isn't.
Yeah. Cell tower says it's 6 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting of the Manitowoc School Board to order. At this time, if you please rise. The National Junior Honor Society students from Wilson Middle School will be leading us in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And we will meet them later. They're doing a presentation to the board, so find out, get some introductions later with that. So we appreciate you being here tonight. Roll call.
Christopher Abel,
Here.
David Bowman,
In attendance.
Viv Hansen,
Present.
Ann Holson,
Here.
Mary Mulkey Blahnik,
Present.
Keith Shaw,
Here.
Carrie Trask.
We'll open up the public comment. We have one speaker tonight, Sarah Weinberg.
All right, Sarah Weinberg, 2919 Jamar Road, Cato, speaking as the president of the MEA. Change has become a constant in education, especially over the last decade in our district. New standards, new technologies, new expectations, and new challenges seem to arrive every year, sometimes every semester. And yet, through all of this change, teachers and your staff remain. We are resilient, not because change is easy, but because it is hard. And we show up anyway. We adapt lesson plans overnight, learn new platforms on the fly, and rethink how to reteach students whose needs are always evolving. When circumstances shift, we don't ask whether the work still matters. We ask how to make it work. Persistence is the quiet strength of it's found in the teacher who tries a new approach after the first one fails, in the educator who believes in a student long before that student believes in themselves, in the professional who keeps refining, reworking, and recommitting day after day, because the impact on a child's life is worth the effort. Resilience doesn't mean teachers are unaffected by change. It means they move forward despite uncertainty. It means turning obstacles into opportunities and challenges into growth. We model this resilience for our students, showing them how to face change with courage, flexibility, and determination. Because of teachers, classrooms remain a place of stability even when the world feels unsettled. Because of our persistence, learning continues, and because of our resilience, students learn not only academic content, but how to persevere through the change themselves. Teaching has never been about standing still. It's about moving forward together. And time and again, teachers prove they are not only capable of navigating change, but of leading others through it with strength, purpose, and heart. As our district moves forward with consolidating, we remain resilient and persevere for the success of our students. We will continue to work together to support one another. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Having no other sheets or people wishing to speak, we will move on with the agenda. And we go to the consent agenda. Is there anything on that that somebody would like to pull up and discuss?
Even me.
That's why I did you first.
I know.
Nothing?
I had on my bingo card.
Oh, sorry. So do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move that.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second from David. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those say nay, and those are approved. To go to our student representative, Lulu, for your reports.
Okay. To recap what we've seen in LHS sports since our last meeting, girls basketball currently stands with a record of 9-11. boys basketball with a record of 7-11, and boys hockey with a record of 3-11. Our wrestling athletes completed their season at their last home meet with record wins from all 5 seniors. For our artistic sports, the varsity dance team ended their season placing 5th in Division I hip hop at state. Our cheer team attended UCA Nationals in Orlando, Florida for the first time ever, and although they did not place, they achieved one of their highest scores ever. To wrap up athletics, gymnastics currently has a conference record of 3-1. And for our non-athletic clubs or other student organizations, at this time there are no notable events or updates due to the beginning of the second semester. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
There's a musical coming up.
Oh, is that soon?
That's
Next.
the next,
I think it's next weekend.
Yep, next weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday matinee.
yep.
What is the name of the musical?
At 9 to 5. And Jackie Dram was invited to sing at the Appleton Local Arts. She was juried in, and she's one of like 6 kids that has a solo or something like that over there at the PAC.
It sounds like the front row knows about it.
Very cool. Next weekend, Valentine's Day.
Yep.
Got an idea for a gift?
Week after.
The week after.
Yeah.
The week after.
This week.
You're at the symphony this weekend.
You gotta buy something for this weekend, not next.
Which has, the symphony this weekend has 2 former students from Lincoln, one of whom finished her doctorate in opera performance. So, yeah.
Very cool. Report of the super.
Thank you. I'd like to start tonight by thanking members of the Wilson Junior National Honor Society for being with us. They're going to do a brief presentation about their organization, and to introduce them, Principal Anna Beatty.
This is Miss Steffen. She's one of the National Junior Honor Society's advisors. Miss Delicka is also, but she's not feeling well tonight, so she couldn't come. I'm gonna let these 3 young individuals introduce themselves. This is the prime opportunity for them to show off their speaking skills. All right, you've got
I'm
this.
Palmer Weinberg, NJHS Vice President.
I'm Anna Carey, NJHS's treasurer.
I'm Claire Hoffman. I'm NJHS's president.
Do you want them to present right now? Are we
yeah.
bumping it up? Fantastic.
Well, it's part of the superintendent's report, but we just got through stuff quick. So, yep, you're on. I think there's a clicker there if you need the clicker, and good to go.
This one?
Yep. You got it.
At Wilson Middle School, our chapter of National Junior Honor Society has 60 members. We pledge to uphold our 5 pillars: scholarship, leadership, service, character, and citizenship. As NJHS members, we complete community service 25 hours a year, put together social events and fundraisers to assist the community, and much more.
For NJHS, we do a social action project every year, and this year we had an idea for our social action project to do something with homeless shelters. So we virtually met and in person met with 2 different groups. One shelter being the Haven and one shelter being the Hope House. For the Hope House, we asked them a few questions during our virtual meeting, like what they do for the community, what would be helpful to them, and how can we, NJHS, support them. And they told us that they were always in need of blankets, like that was a very big need of theirs, and that they were always in need of volunteers. So we had the idea of creating blankets, like us making them to supply them, and they suggested volunteering, so we set dates for groups of NJHS members to go in and help out with whatever they really needed. We met with the Haven, and we had a representative come into Wilson, and we asked them the same questions, like what they do, what would be helpful, how can we support them. And they said that they were in need of hygiene products and cleaning supplies, and also volunteers. So we had the idea of a supply drive at Wilson to collect cleaning supplies, hygiene products, and donate them to the Haven. And then they suggested volunteer work like the Hope House did, so we set dates for MJHS members to go in and help out.
Cool.
Going on to the supply drive, we created various steps to complete this. So after meeting with the Haven, we had the idea to create a supply drive where students could donate hygiene products and other basic necessities for those in need at the Haven. Students can bring items such as garbage bags, air fresheners, zip-up bags, light bulbs, disinfecting wipes, and more. Going on to the steps, first, we want to create groups to figure out what we need to do. We created groups as decorating and creating boxes, posters, announcements, county collecting, and all much more. And going on to that, we created the announcements and boxes to help advertise the supply drive so more kids would like come and help. And we also created a prize for them because kids love to be competing for a prize. And that's pretty much what we did. And then afterwards, we collected items from the advisories and delivered them to the Haven.
Oops, back to that.
Going on to supply drive results, we did get a lot for them. It was really nice. And we've been going in groups for the Haven to like help deliver them and to help volunteer.
After meeting with the Hope House, we decided to create tie blankets to help support the families with something of their own. On Saturday, April 18th, we will be working at Wilson to create the blankets, and we will be delivering them to the Hope House.
We did a lot of volunteer work. So a couple weeks ago, our secretary Kyla, who's not here tonight, took a group in and they volunteered at the Hope House with 8th graders in the morning, and then they volunteered with 7th graders at the Hope House or at the Haven in the afternoon. I went yesterday and it was a lot of fun. At the Hope House, we organized a toy room for their families, and it was a lot of fun. And then at the Haven, we organized clothes, we cleaned some items and other stuff. Yeah, and yeah, it was just a lot of fun. So now I'm going to turn this over to Aaron.
Going on to our annual student staff volleyball tournament. This is probably the most fun project that we do every year. This is our second annual one, obviously. And we do this tournament. I started last year, for to help with our just like with funds for our social action project and all that stuff. So first we created groups to help with this, just like we did with supply drive. We created groups as like tournament workers, which are lined as concession workers, and announcements to help for all that stuff. And we created a team sign up via Google Forms where teams could sign up and they could pay $25 per team to get in, which is like $5 per person. And they could play against staff and against the other students, obviously. And it's just a really fun time with all friends and stuff. And it's going on March 11th from 3 to 6, and it's probably the most fun project we ever do.
Yeah, adding on to that, it also gives students a way to interact with if you're a 6th grader, you can interact with 7th graders and 8th graders and vice versa. So, yeah, we just wanted to tell you guys how grateful we were to come and present here. So, that's it.
Thank you.
I have a question. First of all, thank you. I think this is outstanding. Thank you for your work, and thanks for being a member of the National Honor Society. So now, does this follow you all the way through Lincoln, or when you get to Lincoln, are you automatically members of the National Honor Society, or do you have to reapply for membership in the National Honor Society?
Well, we have to reapply, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's just a good starting base to show us
Perfect.
what it's going to be about. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm sure you'll make it. No problem.
I'd like to thank you from the board. You honor us by being here tonight. You honor the people you work with every day in the school, the teaching staff, and your people that you go home tonight. Moms, dads, whoever is caring for you. This is something good for us to see as a board, because sometimes we have other issues that are so much fun. But it's always great when the kids come in and just tell us what's going on and what you're doing and the extra. And this is an extra thing you do. And that's real important, because you got to do extra things throughout life. All right, appreciate it a lot.
Yes, thank you. And, on behalf of all of your teachers and the folks who work at Wilson, they're very proud to watch you do this. And what I would tell you and challenge you on, you talked a lot about the things you're doing. A lot of the things you're doing has impact. And so many things we see in the world today, there's a lot of words, and there's a lot of this, and there's a lot of that. But the things that you're focusing on, the pillars of your organization, you're living those out. And that's the whole idea of leadership. And so I just, on behalf of the district, we're very grateful to have had you here to share with us tonight. And we're also very, very proud of you. Keep up the great work. As I move forward, I'll just highlight a couple of other things.
You're all welcome to stay and watch it.
It's about to get really good.
If you really
Just briefly share a couple of other things. The Rising Tide Award winners for February at the district: Giovanni De Los Reyes, custodian at Madison Elementary; Carl Black, an AL teacher at Lincoln; and Amy Wiesner, counselor at Jackson. We're all winners of the Rising Tide Award for February. I'm pleased to share with you that our recent 4K open house at Riverview Elementary was very successful. It happened, last week, I believe, Monday. I stopped by there. It was a full group of folks coming through. They had opportunities to learn about our programming for next year, go see some of the classrooms and interact and find out a little bit more about the partnership that we'll be working with the Y. They were also on hand. I talked to Principal Callan about how she thought things went. She was very pleased. She indicated that typically they have between 40 and 50 people visiting, and they had over 100 visiting for this one. So it was a great turnout. So I'd like to thank Heidi for working with them and the partnership that we've been able to put together, because I think it's going to be really wonderful for our families.
So could I ask that
Sure.
that increase in number is contributing to the all-day 4K?
It's hard to say at this point, but there was a lot of interest in that.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So registration for that will open up very soon, I believe in the middle of the month, correct, Heidi? And then so we'll be able to start counting the ones coming in and registering and figuring out where we're at for next year. Just sharing this briefly, it's going to be a project that we're going to get a lot of our stakeholders involved with. Calling it Students at the Helm, the logo project. Some of our high school students in graphic design classes are going to work to put together a series of logos that will be considered for potentially rebrand logos. We did talk about having a little competition once they're developed. Our PR team is going to narrow down some choice, and then we're going to do a little tournament style voting with community members as well as staff members and students to get excited about that. And yes, for those wondering, we will keep the current logo as a choice for voting, because a lot of people have asked that. Like, we're not automatically changing, but we will follow the will of the people, so to speak, on this. But it's really cool to get the kids involved. We think it'll be a fun spring thing for the community to also engage in as well. You can see under my professional learning update that I've been able to attend a few workshops.
Back up just a second.
Oh, sure.
With the branding,
Mhm.
questions on that, are we looking at changing the MPSD logo as well, so the
We're looking at-
sports logos,
Yep.
the academic logos, the MPSD logo,
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah, we're looking at all that.
Things
Yep.
like that, okay.
Yep.
I gotta get another.
Professional learning, some workshops if you have any questions about any of the things from there. And then I will just say, we've had the first two meetings of the Madison and Jackson Legacy Committee. In fact, I just came from Jackson this afternoon. We had an hour and 15 or 20-minute meeting. It was fantastic. Both groups are really excited about things they're putting together. Things will come out soon on that. We're gonna put out, the goal will be a press release. That'll be sort of a joint press release dealing with both events. So we'll kind of do two at the same time. Because both of them are gonna involve the community and getting them involved in sharing stories and sharing memories and sharing artifacts. But as soon as we get all those things nailed down, we'll be getting that out to everyone. Planning will continue. I think we just planned another meeting for 2 weeks from now. We'll continue to work forward and I'll keep you updated as to what's happening with those things as well. And then just a reminder for those of you attending, we have the Awards of Distinction, Chamber of Commerce on Thursday. I believe it starts at
4:30.
4:30 is the social, 6 o'clock is the program. And we're there to cheer on the vast number of MPSD nominees for the Education Impact Award. We have one person also, Claudia Fisher, nominated for Young Professional of the Year, and of course, the district for Large Business of the Year. So we're very excited to celebrate that on Thursday of this week. So those of you who are attending that, we'll meet up there and we can, back left, we'll sit in the
Yeah,
back.
right.
Like we did the other day.
Yeah.
That concludes the comments that I have prepared. If anybody has any questions.
Yeah.
Back left.
Any questions for the super? Seeing none. We do not have any unfinished business, but we have to go to the director's report first. Yeah. Any questions on the director's report? Yes, Ann.
And I spoke a little bit with Mr. Shaw and Mr. Melfi on this. This was the request for proposals. It looks like we're requesting two, right? One for the audit, one for the employee benefits. My questions there, in that seems, we haven't done it for a decade, makes sense. Had a few questions on who the selection team would be.
Well, I wanted to run the RFP, but, oh, sure, yeah. You want me to talk in your back of your head? No. I wanted to run everything by, put the RFP out so you guys can see it before we start sending it out or anything like that. The audit is gonna be a much smaller group because it's a very business office focused sort of thing. But then with the benefits, obviously, it's a much bigger deal. Someone from HR, Sasha, who's in Stacy's department, is gonna participate. I'm hoping Lee has the time to participate too. Then that's a big thing. Looking at a different broker for self-funded plans. We've talked to other superintendents in the area, and I've talked to other business managers, folks, to hear about folks that they've worked with that they've enjoyed working with and felt like they've been able to do some innovative things with their self-funded insurance plans. So just want to see what else is out there.
So I guess a follow-on question, and this is more for Mr. Tennis and Mr. Schwartz. We had talked about and approved that there was going to be an RFP for a CM, a construction manager, right? Is that something that we're going to just be able to see that RFP, how Nathan showed us these examples?
Yeah, you were emailed that RFP before it was sent out.
I guess I missed that then.
Well, we were at the convention, or whatever. But yeah, that's all out there. And, again, we're in the process right now. So just an update on where that one is. We had an initial meeting where anyone could show up who was interested. Just a Google Meet to say hello. This is where we're at. We appreciate your interest. They're in the process right now of a questions phase. So any questions that any of the potential construction managers might have of the scopes of the projects and things of that nature, Mr. Schwartz and Mr. Hacker are taking those questions. That phase, I believe, ends at the end of the week. And then I believe on Thursday of next week, correct? Thursday of next week, it will close and we'll have sort of a meeting to look over proposals. Mr. Hacker will take any proposals we receive, summarize them. Those will be sent to Mr. Schwartz, Mr. Melky, and myself. We have a meeting scheduled for the Monday following to review those, with hopes of then being able to meet with Mr. Shaw prior to the Finance and Facilities Committee to give him a rundown of what we've learned, and then bring those either finalists or recommended finalists to the committee in March.
Thank you.
To go along with board members, Ann's question, when we get this person on staff, and as Mike will present in a couple of minutes, a separation of what he would like to do and what this manager would like to do. We have a current policy that anything over $100,000 must be approved by the board. Well, in conversation, there's not going to be too many of these projects that aren't over $100,000. And so how, and through a facilities committee agenda, without calling facilities committee into meeting once a week, and if we wait a month to approve these contracts, because we have to approve everything over $100,000, we're going to delay progress on how these contractors are going to get going on a project. But if we approve the contract, they could begin in a couple of weeks. So how do we, as a committee, not either get called into special meetings for everything that comes above $100,000, or I guess that's my question.
Chris?
Well, we have the list of the projects we want to do, and we have the probable costs. So if finance and ultimately the board approve each job up to that, that's the red line. If it goes over that, then it has to come back. But that way you don't have to meet every time everything comes in at well, we got this one and you guys had okayed it for 120,000 and it's 114. It would be silly to come in and approve that. So we can approve all that work up to the amounts that are on that table that we already have. Of
If it overruns.
that we know. We only address, right, if we go over.
I'm not sure that's accurate. Is there somebody we can confirm that with?
So,
An attorney or?
well,
It's
so
just over 100,000. I mean, it's.
there has to be
Has to be exact.
board approval for
It's a contract.
a contract that you're entering in over $100,000.
Yeah.
So now, depending on whether or not there is, for example, bids that need to be approved. So likely what we would try to do is for those types of things that we take action on, those would come through the committee for approval because they're over $100,000 and they need bids, correct?
Yeah.
Mr. Milky? So yes, we have the general project list that gives us estimates, but technically speaking, following our policy, we do need to have affirmative action on the projects, for example, the bids over 100,000, because we have to get bids for anything over 100,000. So ultimately, there has to be a recommendation made to the board and approval of that to enter into doing the work. So I guess the answer, Mr. Shaw, would be we have a couple of different options. One could be, as these come in, we could quite literally do a series of either bi-weekly virtual meetings where quite literally the only agenda items are reviewing essentially proposals. They would probably be relatively short. I wouldn't want to have to make it so we had to have so many of them, like where it's, so maybe like, but thinking about once a month, then really what you're probably looking at is, 2 weeks from that point. Well, also, we could circumvent the committee if you have bids that would come in, for example, let's say like we met last week as a committee. What if something came in on Thursday that could be maybe taken up and the full board?
I think that goes to what Chris said then. If we see that
Yeah.
If we're presented by this manager or Mr. Schwartz, Mike,
Yep.
if we're presented this list of projects and here's our range, Mike says it's gonna come in at 114,000, so we say, okay, we'll approve this project at a committee up to 120, this project up, if we approve it in there, and that can get us through the month, we have that limit on there, then we as a committee won't have to keep coming back because we've already approved the projects that are slated for that time.
So
Yeah.
when I think of this, if we put a limit on a project, 120,000, and it comes in under that, why would we then have to approve that again?
Because it's a contract.
Like,
Yeah. We have to approve every contract.
Right, but do we have, so we have to approve that before they can start work on it?
Yeah. That's my question.
That's what I'm saying, though, if we think about this, you have your first week of the month, we have the committee meeting. The
Right.
second week of the month, we have this. So what if, I mean, quite literally, I don't think we'll be in too many positions, correct me if I'm wrong, either Nathan or Mike, where we would need to go like the very next week, but what about the week in between, you know, like the week in between the laps?
Sure.
Potentially. We could just like quite literally find, I mean, it's probably a 15 or 20-minute version.
And we may be ahead of ourselves, but next month, this committee will be looking at those project managers and making a recommendation to the board.
Correct.
So we're well on our way
Right.
to rocking and rolling
Yep.
when these projects get
Yep.
through.
So, Mike, Nate, in situations like this, how much could it delay projects? I mean, that's one of my concerns, because you know, would there be delays on some because we don't do this quick enough? Or,
Because we've got such a short window in the
Right.
summertime here,
Yeah.
it could impact a project. But just knowing what your requests are and that stuff, we'll just have to look forward and circumvent that. We'll just
And
have
I
to
think
work within
when
those bounds.
Mike presents a little bit, I've asked him to give his summer school projects, you're gonna see projects that are, we need to get going on this summer, because they'd like to start Stangle right away. So we need to approve those projects and get these things going.
So we have the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting, we have the regular board meeting. We could have, until these are all done, the special board meeting will have a spot for this. So we've got for sure 2 a month. So every 2 weeks, we're getting, as long as we're timing out, Mike, you're saying we need Stangle first. As long as we're prioritizing our requests for bids and getting those through the cycle properly, we should be okay. And if we have to add 1 or 2 in there as a remote board,
yeah, sure.
so be
It's not a
it.
big-
I guess that's my thought.
Mary?
No more to say.
All right,
Are you comfortable with, in those cases?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Calling a special board meeting to, because otherwise what you'll then be doing is you'll be calling a special committee meeting, then the special board meeting, whereas we could just all get
And if
together.
we don't do something, I'm gonna be calling these two every week saying, okay, let's talk.
Right.
We don't need to do that.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
okay, anything else from directors?
I have a comment.
Yes.
And this is, in the report that I read, the amount of fantastic things that are going on in our school forest. And again, thanks to Kelly Moran for what she's doing out there with this maple syrup and the pavilion for that, and the support from the Wild West Foundation, again, supporting public schools and building that pavilion out there for the kids. Outstanding work. I love her reports at the end of the school year, but this just adds such a neat addition to those reports. So congratulations to her, and thanks for the report from the directors. Nice job.
You know, I have a wonder on that too. I mean, I remember my kids, I think it was 6th grade, went out for like, what, 2 nights or 3 nights or something like that.
6th grade camp?
Sixth grade, yes.
Yeah, and that was a really a significant event in their lives. And you know, I mean, it made me happy and it made them different, you know? They saw the world slightly differently after that. And I was wondering why we discontinued that and if there's any possibility.
It's back on.
It's back on.
It's back on,
Yeah.
it's back on.
It's going.
This was the first year that it was back up to 2 nights since pre-COVID. So
Okay.
right
Okay.
after COVID, sixth graders were spending 1 night out at the forest, and now it's back up to 2 nights. And Kelly and her advisory committee just continued to revamp programming and create really cool experiences for kids, and had an opportunity to stop out at a couple of the camps this fall, and it's just so cool to see students out in that natural environment and having opportunities to explore. It's great. Kelly does such an amazing job.
Yeah, there were 5 principals that, you know, were kind of folk heroes in the city who got together to get the and I knew all of them, and they were just, you know, they were much admired people for this. And I'm really glad to see that we're doing.
So my question is,
fulfill their hopes.
when are they gonna go back to 4 days at camp?
Yeah.
When you are willing to step up.
It's a wonderful, it's a great facility, and we're lucky to have that. Yes, Chris?
Yeah, some of the choices that were made by teachers at 4 days, we wouldn't want to go back to, so we'll just let that one go.
Oh, yeah.
But I thought you might want to know that next year is it the 150th anniversary of school forests in Wisconsin, 100 or 150? And that year-long celebration will kick off at the RAR West School Forest. Because the state association has chosen us to be the starting point for it. So you'll certainly be hearing more about it next year, but I wanted you to know that that's coming.
So can we go out for 3
Important
days?
for us.
Retreat?
Yeah.
You want a board retreat?
Yeah.
I just wanted to give, well, kudos, the pictures are worth 1,000 words, like in the presentation we had tonight, and these 2 pictures about in their shoes
Oh, yeah.
was huge, and that made me think about how would I sit in that classroom and have somebody speaking to me in another language that I
Oh,
had
yeah,
no
yeah,
idea
right.
what they were saying. So thank you for that. And one last for the directors behind me, just can you give me a feel for what's our sentiment? What's are people getting, you know, there's some choices coming out, there's some things, you know, where they're making selections mainly for you, Heidi, that are we getting cohesive? I know things are still very nervous, you know, uneasiness, a little bit of apprehension for the changes, the big changes we're making. So just if you could give me where are we at?
Changes overall, or are you thinking more about staffing specifically?
Mainly the staffing and where, because we're making those changes and choices.
Yeah. Stacy's been really killing it with staffing. Okay, Stacy, would you like to speak to that at all?
Yeah, I can give it just a quick update. So yesterday we let staff know that they would be getting their new assignments. So last night I had sent 157 emails, letting people know what their new assignments were. And if there was any movement. There were some personal conversations that we had, so the director split those up, and people that had a big change, or, you know, we are having to do some reductions, so I had to let some people know that they don't have a position right now for them for next year. We had those personal conversations. Tomorrow, each of the buildings, minus Lincoln and Stangle, so K4, K8, will get this is the roster for the upcoming school year. So we wanted to give people who had changes an opportunity to talk to who they wanted to talk to, have time to process that. You know, with changes like this, there's some people who are not going to be happy about the changes. There's some people who are ecstatic about the changes. I would say I have less than 2 hands worth of people who I got messages from today who had some questions about why their position was chosen the way it was. So quite honestly, out of 157 emails, if I have less than 2 hands, I consider that pretty decent. And again, we're just trying to tell people we're trying to do the best we can to create the best teams, to equalize our distribution of inexperienced versus experienced teachers and get people in the right spot. So I think this is a big Band-Aid ripped off that people know. You know, I joked that the next thing's going to be like, where's my room? So I told Mr. Schwartz, get ready, because now it's going to building and grounds.
My father.
Yep, so DPI, for what we call professional staff, or those DPI licensed staff, K4, K8, know where they are going. Lincoln is finishing up their course registration, so they'll do scheduling soon. So we're hoping in the next couple weeks to get Lincoln settled. And then my goal is to have support staff done before spring break. So
So I guess I'd like to still hear those updates and see, because I know it's all new, it's all very fresh, but just kind of get a feel as a whole, how we're moving and what our sentiments are and what our emotions are and what we have to face next.
Yeah, and I will tell you, I debated putting it in my board report, but I wasn't quite sure when we were gonna tell people. And, you know, the timeline is kind of moved based on new information we get all the time. So I didn't want to actually put something in writing that would come out last Friday if I couldn't promise that it was really gonna happen. So that was why that was not in the board report. Thank you.
I'll just add, I do think that there are waves of emotion throughout this process, and today was a big one, right? So I think that things will settle again, and then high school will go through this, and then support staff will go through this, and I think each time we have this additional part of the process, there's a little bit more ripples, but it feels pretty calm, like Stacy said, for the sense that we had all of these people that we're communicating with. And we're not hearing from everyone, but I think I'm glad that today and yesterday are done.
So I think we just want to keep our pulse on that.
Yeah, and I will say, we did also, besides a handful of people who had some questions, we also, Lee and I both got some emails that were like, thank you so much. We know this is hard. We appreciate the thoughtfulness. We appreciate you hearing our voice. So we did get a handful of those emails today as well.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just, an appropriate place under director's report, but just two things from me. One is, you know, as Sarah talked about earlier, change is hard, but we're resilient and professional. And I see evidence of that every day in our schools with our staff rocking it with kids. And, you know, even, you know, an example of that this evening at the Jackson meeting that we had for planning the legacy stuff. You know, one of our teachers there is saying like, we got to get the kids involved with this. How are we going to get the kids involved in this? And they gave like half a dozen different ideas of how to do that. And I just think that the focus is where it should be, which is on children. And I couldn't be more proud of people for that. And secondly, what I would say is that, you know, the director team that you have working in this district, you should feel very fortunate that you have them. And I know I do every day. Because they're working their tails off and they're really doing a great job. Because you have to understand that what we're going through right now is something that many people won't ever do in their whole careers. And it's challenging because you're doing your normal things that you would normally do all the time, and you're adding a certain complexity and intensity to it with all of the emotions. So just, you know, pat on the back to the team and just very much appreciate all of your leadership and work. And we're here to work with our folks. We want everything to go very well and smoothly. And we want to honor people in the work that they're doing with their kids. So they're doing a great job of that.
Anything else on this or for the directors? Hearing, seeing none, we'll now move on to new business. The assessment data. District assessment data.
We have hard copies if people would prefer that. Otherwise, we just sent, there were some last minute adjustments made, so we sent a revised, updated version to you via email. Otherwise, if anyone's interested in a hard copy, I can pass those out. Just know there's a couple of changes. Yeah. Sometimes it's nice to jot some.
Thank you.
Anyone else? You got it. Just know that a couple of pages are tweaked, but you don't have updated versions.
It's not even. When was that today? Minutes ago.
We're gonna start, we have 3 different categories that we're gonna go through with you. This first part will be our ELA data, or in some regards are primarily reading data that we have to share. So one of the things that we'll just say overall as we were looking at both our ELA and math data is
I think we're not jumping up and down about our data right now. There's a lot of stagnation, a lot of ups and downs. We have lots of thoughts about why that could be, but we're gonna just kind of go through the data. Where we feel like things are kind of neutral or not significantly different. We won't highlight that too much. I will say that with this kindergarten data, and then if you also look at the next page, which is, so our kindergarten through third grade students, remember, they're taking a different assessment. They're not taking the FastBridge anymore. So on that assessment, we did notice a pretty big drop for our kindergarten students. And then for our FastBridge data, we noticed a pretty big drop for our fourth grade students. So we've already dug into that data and we identified some key concepts and things that our current curriculum isn't teaching yet. And so we're talking when we're in a new curriculum year again. So part of that process this year will be us recognizing along the way, what are the holes, if you will, or areas where maybe things haven't been taught yet that are being tested. So thank you very much to Abigail Meerdink. She's our wonderful district reading specialist, and she has dug into the data a ton. And so she's already identified for fourth grade what our third grade teachers need to be doing, that what are those kind of holes in our third grade curriculum that attach to this data that fourth grade students are showing that they aren't able to do. And the same thing with kindergarten. She's looking at our 4K curriculum and saying, what's in the 4K curriculum that's missing that we would need to beef up so that our kindergartners are ready. So those are some things that we've noticed at the elementary level. Also, we'll save, if you guys are okay, we'll have questions at the end. So if you've got questions and you want to jot them down, just so we can keep our flow going.
All right, jumping to our middle school levels. So students in grades 6 through 8 also take the FastBridge assessment as our benchmark assessment throughout the year. As you can see, just a couple of areas were highlighted overall. We have some growth to celebrate at our middle level, which is really exciting. Much of that, and we'll get to sort of what we're doing about this a little later in our presentation, but for the first year, again, thanks to the efforts of our reading specialists, Abigail Meerdink, and then our reading teachers at the middle level, we have a really solid process for intervention for literacy, really for the first time this year, and we're seeing the fruits of that labor, I believe, as just part of these two assessment snapshots really right now. So similar to what Heidi said, we know what we need to know. We know that our 7th grade took a little dip. So the beautiful thing about looking at this and having regular reviews of our data is that we acknowledge where it is, and then we say, all right, what are we going to do about 7th grade, or what are we doing in 8th grade? Where are some curricular gaps? If you remember, our ELA curriculum is new at the 6-8 building as well. So we feel pretty fortunate that we're not having, sometimes there's something called an implementation gap. So, kudos to all of our teachers who are working super diligently to really work through learning new curricular tools and implementing those resources and looking at student data, and then, having those collaborative conversations with our interventionists and specialists about how we support students who are seeing some of those gaps. High school takes a different assessment. So our high school this year takes the STAR assessment as their benchmark assessment. They were taking FastBridge. FastBridge ended up really only accurately assessing through 9th grade. So it wasn't a super accurate assessment for our high school students when we're talking about 9th, 10th, 11th grade proficiency. So we don't have a lot of longitudinal data yet as far as STAR results go, but we are on our 2nd benchmark assessment. So as you can see, 9th graders showed a little improvement. Again, sometimes we see a winter dip. We're not seeing a huge winter dip, so that's something to celebrate. And our 10th grade, really just sort of stayed the same, but otherwise, pretty positive ELA results. You'll see on a slide, in a couple of slides, we didn't have great test participation at the high school. So that invalidates some of this and something that we need to work on. When we don't have a good test participation, it's hard to look at this
information and say, we feel really solidly that we're getting all of the kids, the right kids, a lot of times with a lower test participation rate. It's the kids that we know are a little bit higher achieving because they're in regular attendance and those kinds of things. So we'll be working with the Lincoln team to improve their test participation rates as we move forward. And there that is.
Sorry, you were talking about that.
I was talking about it. Here it is. So again, you'll see, you know, our middle schools have excellent test participation. Our high school needs some work. And that is both the Stengel/McKinley building and Lincoln High School.
All right, we're gonna move into some math updates. We're in the kind of similar boat with math. I think one of the things we've talked about, we know that we've got like a really solid intervention practice in place for ELA right now for reading. With our interventionists at the elementary middle level, and we recognize, and the state has made some declarations about needing to have math interventionists. So that is something that we might hear about in the future. It's a little bit hard, and as we're trying to cut down our budget at the same time that we know we have needs. So it's a little bit hard to kind of figure out the right path for that. But it would be nice for us to have some more consistent support for our struggling math students outside of just the classroom teacher. We have, again, this kindergarten thing happening here this year, where our kindergarten has gone down quite a bit between fall and winter. And then something wonderful happening at second grade, where we have a pretty big jump for our second graders from fall to winter. Sometimes that can be the order that things are taught in the curriculum. And that could be very much what's happening in kindergarten. So that, we haven't explored the details of that.
Middle school, we don't necessarily have quite as much to celebrate in math as we do, you know, in our ELA area. I think something that our team has acknowledged and you know, our building leaders and many of our teacher leaders have acknowledged is that sometimes when you go all in on one thing like literacy, there tends to be a little bit of a, you know, we don't forget about, but we don't go as all in on math. And so similar, like what Heidi just said, you know, with Act 20 was just implemented by the state. There's going to be a Math Act A16, I believe it's called, and that will be coming, not for next school year, but the following school year. So state is also recognizing there needs to be equal attention. Our middle school and high school math teams are in curriculum review right now, so they are looking for an updated resource that better aligns with state standards, that is, you know, that meets all of their check marks for curriculum that will help students achieve at high levels. So we have a great math leadership team that's very invested in that process right now at both the middle school and high school level. You know, as we talk about this and talk about our specific interventions and things, you know, how are we supporting math proficiency and development in the same way that we're supporting literacy right now will be ongoing conversations that we're having. High school, see there. Again, our 9th grade sort of wrapped it, and our 11th grade, not necessarily the case. The high school team is doing really focused work on aligning some ACT standards with core standards that we're hoping to see some positive results from on the ACT this year. So we're hoping that as they continue to work through what those, you know, as we learn STAR, which is new, what's being assessed when on these different fall, winter, spring benchmarks, how is that aligning with, you know, the ACT test and things like that. So we'll continue to work through those conversations. And again, test participation is a little bit better for math, which, you know, that'll be questions that we say, all right, Lincoln team, why are we seeing, you know, why are we seeing a lower participation rate for ELA? Why are we seeing a higher? So what are your math teachers doing to get kids to test those kinds of things? So again, we're not jumping up and down about all of this, but it is a starting point for conversations to say, let's dig into some root causes, come up with some hypotheses, let's figure out what we need to do from here, because it is what it is. Can't go back and do anything about this, but we can try to improve moving forward.
We transition to some behavior updates.
So if you take a look at that, some longitudinal data to show our in-school suspensions and out-of-school suspensions. So the state of Wisconsin pulls our data directly from Infinite Campus and reports out on these would be considered exclusionary disciplinary practices. So when kids are removed from the setting. So this is reported in a percent of students. So 5.8% of our student population right now, 261 students of our whole district have received an in-school or out-of-school suspension thus far this year. So, you know, sometimes when we report out the number of behavioral incidents, it looks like this staggering number of things that are happening, but really, you know, 5% of our total student population is not a large percent of population when we're thinking about, you know, how we're reporting out what's going on in our schools and what we're doing about it. So we don't want kids to be out of the school environment. The ISS and OSS are last resorts in regard to any sort of disciplinary action, especially at our elementary level and with our lower grade students. So we want that number to be low, and you see we hit sort of a spike. 22, 23, it's coming down. We hope to see that number continue to decrease, which just means we're building our capacity to support students and their needs at school and help them meet school and building expectations without having to remove them from the school setting where they're not necessarily learning how to meet those needs and how to have successful strategies.
So there's stuff, obviously, you have data for beyond, you know, earlier than 2021, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, was there a norm at one point like that? I mean, 5.8 looks really stunningly good to me, but I just wondered if you know,
2019, 2020, we weren't in
2021, if that were like, you know, 4.8, I might, you know, might not be so ecstatic, but.
21, 22 is when we came back to school, our first full year back in person full-time after COVID. So, you know, again, I think there's some hypotheses could be that students were adjusting to being back in the school environment, which requires, you know, intentional teaching about how to meet those expectations. So, you know, I think in general, the feeling in our buildings is that we have our students back, so to speak. Like we have students who are used to being in the school setting again. We're not still talking as much about the negative impact on COVID and our kids' ability to have stamina to do school, meet all the various expectations, those things. So we're making market improvements.
But we've also got a kind of a new approach to disciplinary behavior, which this may reflect that
That's what we're hoping.
that it's actually working.
Yeah, our character strong and social emotional curriculum and our multi-level systems of support that we have in place, those are all.
So we have something there. And the other stuff, the thing that bothers me is we know where we're at, but we don't know why we're there, do we? I mean, I think that, you know, to do that, we'd have to do a fairly sophisticated sociological study of the makeup of the student body, wouldn't we? I mean, and that's very elusive now. But I know kids that are doing really well, and I know there's kids that aren't. But
I would say 94.2% of our kids are doing really well right now in regard to meeting the needs of our buildings and our teachers and finding success, which is good.
Okay, we're gonna move on to some specifics for elementary. This year for elementary, as we were talking about planning, we invested in EduClimber, which is a warehouse for all of our data, and we were talking about trying to get more consistent entering data and trying to flip the way teachers think about behavior with students, and so behavior is a communication. And when students are misbehaving, what is that telling us? So when we put our incidents into EduClimber, we are asking our teachers to think of them through this new lens. And so these aren't going to sound like maybe like your typical behavior words, but the 3 behavior incidents that are the most common at the elementary right now are difficulty considering the likely outcome or consequence of actions. And what that looks like is a student perhaps rushing through their work, talking during instruction, or retaliating against another student at recess who might hit them with a ball and they get mad. So that would have been in the past put in negative terms, then we're trying to avoid that. The second one is difficulty managing emotional responses. And there are so far 260 of those at the elementary. Some examples of what that might look like would be refusals that escalate quickly. So a child isn't able to do something that they want and they get escalated very quickly about that. A minor correction from a staff member that leads to a major reaction on the part of the student. A student that struggles with transitioning from one activity, like it's time for centers to be done, my little kindergarten friend, we now have to go to math, and they don't like that. So then kind of just having those explosive reactions. And then the third one is difficulty expressing thoughts and or needs in words. And so I will say, I'm about 99% sure that our staff don't understand what this is, because I don't think it's possible that this is in the top 3. Because examples of that would be refusing to do work without an explanation, having tears and not having words when they're upset, or I don't know responses because really you don't know how to express what it is that you're frustrated about, being really vague with your complaints like I'm bored because you can't really articulate that this math is too hard for me, those kinds of things. Walking away from conflict. I can see that staff might look at a student who's doing that and think that they're being disrespectful, or so they're kind of thinking about maybe this in a different way. So I'm going to address that with the principal team. When we were looking at this data today, I'm like, I think we need some retraining on what that one means, because it would be interesting to see. I don't think we have that many students that often that this is actually the cause or the difficulty that they're having it. Some of the most frequent responses, so as when you put this information in and you say what the adult responses were, and I will admit to you that this was disappointing to me as well. Conferencing with a student, love that one. Parent contact, love that one. Loss of privileges, I love that one less, only because what does that really teach a student? So I'd like to see some more reteaching of expectations and those kinds of things being more typical responses. So again, I'll address that with our elementary team.
Then we have our secondary behavior, top 3 most frequent behavioral incidents, and you'll see these are a little bit more common, probably terms that you're used to seeing when we're talking about behaviors in students. It feels like a little bit more big kid language, which is why we worked hard to differentiate. Heidi worked really hard with her elementary team to put language in that really gives specific information about how to address those different challenging behaviors. So we have a little bit more traditional approach still at the secondary level. Insubordination, that can look like struggling to meet classroom, teacher, building-wide expectations, refusal, maybe just not working in class when they're supposed to be working. These are the top 3 at all of our secondary buildings. So the total number encompasses Washington, Wilson, and Lincoln, which also includes the Stengel building. Washington had the most insubordination offenses of those documented incidents. Personal communication device, if you remember the Lincoln presentation from December, we implemented a new cell phone policy this year. So that one is resoundingly a Lincoln issue, really non-existent in any other building, which is really interesting. Just a difference in policy and age of students, I think, and not having lockers and some of those things. I'll go back up to insubordination quick. I just collected some interesting data on this. So our seventh graders were the worst offenders of insubordination. So last year, if you remember, if you were here, listened to our data presentation, our sixth graders were a little bit most on the struggle bus for behavioral incidents. So it wouldn't be shocking that our seventh graders now are the ones that are struggling. But again, it's like, so now what do we do about our seventh grade students? That they're figuring it out a little more. But we need to put supports in place to make sure that they can meet building expectations. Also, our boys, of the 1,220 offenses of insubordination at our secondary buildings, our boys engaged in 935 of those. And we've talked about this, I believe, as a board, but our young men, struggle. So they are a population that is underperforming academically, a population that's underperforming behaviorally. And so, you know, how do we now take a look at our young men and, you know, provide them with opportunities to.
But they're really good at insubordination.
Paint
it all negative.
And cell phone violations.
Nice segue.
Yeah. So the cell phone violations, of the 633 cell phone violations, 545 are boys. And 10th grade. Vast majority are happening in the 10th grade. So what do we do to support our 10th graders? How are we now for the rest of this year making sure that our 10th graders, we're just being a little bit more intentional with them. And
So
then
what's the protocol when they get nabbed with the phone?
there's a tiered intervention system. So first offense, contact tone, conference, et cetera, et cetera. You can't bring it into the class. Some kids have to turn their phones into the building. There's a pretty elaborate four-tier intervention system for women.
So is there a redundancy here with specific students?
Not a lot of repeat offenders. Yeah.
All right, that's good ones.
And then the third most frequent at the secondary level is instigating a disruption. So these things look like disrupting a classroom, disrupting the learning of yourself or others, can be verbal or social media threats that end up coming into the school day. They may happen outside of the school day, but they negatively impact kids and learning in the school day. So things that require a student to really not be in that classroom as much. And for that one, that is primarily a Wilson incident issue. 8th graders and our boys are our primary offenders in this as well. So now that we know this, we know that we need to work on some things. I was pleased that our most frequent responses our lunch and after school detention. Both of our middle schools have a very intentional lunch and after school detention program that involves school counselor support, some restorative practices, kind of make it right plans, those kinds of things. So that I believe has a lot to do with maybe our not repeat offenders, which is a good thing. So I'd like to see somehow that be replicated at the high school level. They've recently in the last, since second semester, implemented a similar lunch detention process with counselor support and school social worker support. So I think we'll see what that does as the year goes on. So the 3 of those buildings have that. There has been reteaching, restorative strategies, parent contacts, and then loss of privileges also at those buildings. So how can we work with our principal teams to focus on those reteaching, restorative practices, and not punitive punishment unless it's appropriate in at the time for some of those things. So attendance is a celebration. Yeah, we make that a day when the kids are in school. And then here's a district-wide comparison. So as a district, our attendance is improving. All right, so again, what are we doing about this? So we know we have some work to do. Katie Tennyson and her team at CISA 7 has been supporting our buildings on a monthly basis. They engage in site visits. They meet separately with our leadership teams. They are helping build continuity and consistency of our multi-level systems of support as it pertains to behavior specifically. So this is our second year working with them, and again, with the implementation of our Character Strong social emotional learning curriculum, they're making some real positive gains, and we have very intentional interventions and just continue to see that work improving and becoming more consistent district-wide. We have our secondary coaches, was a group that Heidi leads, our instructional coaches district-wide, but our secondary coaches have been focusing intentionally on specific instructional strategies to help promote student engagement and learning at the secondary level. So they are doing a book study, took a class on gradual release of responsibility, which for those of you that don't know the GRR model, it's I do as the teacher, we do as the class, and then you do as the student engaging in some independent practice. So it's a way to not lecture and talk, which I feel like I'm doing a lot of right now, talk for the whole class period, but allow students to engage in discourse and collaboration.
What is that acronym, GRR?
GRR, gradual release of responsibility. So teacher starts being most responsible and we, we have a lot of acronyms, Anne, so don't ever hesitate to.
I would call that OJT, in job training.
We all have our own things, right? So they're working on providing professional development around that specific strategy. There's requirements for implementing that, and then feedback being given by our principals when they're doing classroom observations, and then some data collected around assessments after a GRR lesson to see how students are engaging and the impact on that strategy in the lesson. So there's some real intentional work on that, which is great.
Are you talking academic stuff?
I'm still talking.
I was being flexible.
So again, we have intervention teams through our multi-level system of support, MLSS, up and running. We've been growing that process with the help of our reading instructors and Abigail for the last couple of years. This is the first year really solid at the middle level. Hoping to continue to see the impact of that, positive impact of that. Like we referenced earlier, we do have new curricular resources in ELA. So huge credit to our staff. We're really investing in learning those resources and assessing students. We've not seen the implementation dip that can sometimes be a thing. In line with that, we have some stability, and we're hoping for that continued stability for the next years to come as we dig into that resource and continue to provide professional development opportunities and collaborative opportunities for staff. We have had students that are significantly below proficiency in both ELA and math. So we are seeing incremental growth, but it's not necessarily touching that proficiency rate yet. So we're excited about growth, but when we sort of get to that, we have that movement toward proficiency based on our benchmark assessments and our state assessments. That's when we'll really be able to celebrate. So we're looking forward to that.
I'm just gonna continue on with that. So you all have heard all about the 100-day plans. Just a reminder that that's something that we're really working on. Our admin team, when we get together this next week, we're gonna be having them really dig in, looking at this FastBridge data that we just were able to put together because that window just closed. But looking at that FastBridge data and now compare that to right now, most people have a very targeted thing that they're working on with their 100-day plan, for example, summarizing. Well, summarizing is just one component of reading comprehension. So you might have this really great local data that's saying, based on our PLCs and our formative assessments, our kids are growing and summarizing, but we are not seeing those results in FastBridge. So we want the principals to make that connection, if that connection is there for them. And then to take that information back to their staff and look at their 100-day plan that they have for the second semester and say, are we still focused on the right work? Do we need to make some adjustments? And I think there need to be some adjustments made based on the fact that people are working really hard and celebrating results on this sort of really small thing that is not having this bigger impact.
So that conversation's happening next week with principals. And then student-centered coaching, just a reminder that we do have that going on. I looked into, all of the coaches have a dashboard, and I took a look in there. The average number of coaching cycles that they've been through this year is 9. So it varies from 14 to 6, and it depends on if they're doing some kind of microcycle. So each time the coaches, and they're learning to do this job. We did a training, we have another training coming. But when they're coaching, it's a team or an individual, that impact takes some time to feel. But the real focus of that is, what's the student data from your coaching cycle? Can you show some evidence of student growth from the coaching that you did for this teacher? It's about growing students, growing teachers to grow students. We also have, at the elementary schools, we recognize that with this new curriculum, our teachers were struggling a little bit with this small group reading expectation. For K2, it's a small group lesson. For 3-5, it's book clubs. And so we invested some of our Title II dollars in having 1 or 2 people from each building that's getting individual coaching from the company. And so for teachers that are overwhelmed, to step up and volunteer for this is pretty fantastic. And we do have 1 or 2 teachers from every building. So with the goal of them working with this collaborative coach, virtually, they have to record themselves teaching. They submit the recording to the coach gives them feedback and then meets with them. And that's I think they're in this for 10 weeks. The goal and what we're hoping for is that we're growing our own people within our schools, so that this is a teacher that's now more of an expert, and that people can go in and observe that person or work with that person to do some learning, because it is really hard to get everybody up to speed as fast as you want. So that's another little thing that's happening. And as you know, we're very focused on PLC work, and that also is taking time. I think that we are pushing our administrators, and they are pushing the teachers in like really good ways, but that is making people also, there's like some discomfort there. But I am very happy with the growth that I'm seeing, and I know Katie is too, when you are in a PLC that you've been in already this year, and you can see a team that was really rumbling and not getting anywhere, and they now are off and running, and it's not perfect, but to see that growth is very exciting, and we are seeing that growth. So,
but Heidi, what about the 4th grade? I mean, what do teachers feel like in the 4th grade saying, well, we're at a 53 in the fall, and then they come in with a 38 in the winter? I mean, that's not very conducive to optimism there. Or, are we doing, am I just bad at this? What the hell should I do now? I don't want to be a 32 next time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's gotta be a morale problem, like serious. I mean, if it persists. And even though Sarah says they're resilient, I mean, all of us that have done this kind of work know that it gets like, you start questioning yourself.
It is really hard to be that teacher, but then what you have to do is you have to look at the data and look at the holes and think about why.
Data's so close.
Pick yourself
so
up,
cold,
dust yourself off, and keep on trying. That's my answer.
So you talked about did we focus on the right things that were on the test? I mean, could there be a component to that for even that specific grade? That each one of these could be a research project.
What's not being taught in this curriculum that we need to be taught? So we have to figure all of that stuff out, and we will. I mean, we're very dedicated to that.
Yeah, with these new assessments and curriculum, knowing what's assessed at each benchmark, so that, that we may not have gotten there yet. So how are we looking at?
Are we told that ahead of time?
No, and actually the thing about
that to me is stupid.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
We do know.
It's the standards.
What's assessed.
It's the standards.
Yes, the standards, and so FastBridge adapts to the students where the student is at.
Yes.
So that's another thing. So you can't really say apples and apples, but even when you're looking at the data, you would have to go kid by kid. This is what our teachers need to do.
Yeah.
They get this FastBridge report out and go kid by kid. I can't do that at this level. For me, it was really hard to say what is the thing. But our teachers will absolutely be able to say, this is what Johnny can't do, and this is what Susie can't do. And our principals have got to have those, give those teachers those opportunities.
And then how often will those Fast Bridge from year to year be changing?
They may do some.
Because the ACT kids are taking now is not the one any one of us took. Because as you start getting kids better at a test, you got to make your test harder. And that doesn't always mean their brains are ready for it.
Right.
Chris? Yeah. On what we're talking about here, I just want to make one quick note in advance of that. My recollection is standardized testing, especially the high school standardized statewide testing, they really want us at 95% or above. So I really think it's an opportunity for the high school to see that this other testing is practice for getting everybody there to take that one. Not that one matters and these don't. So I see an opportunity there. My question for you guys is on this issue of proficiency that we're talking about right here. So we have fall proficiency, and then we had, I think it was winter proficiency. Now, is that, as I, as a teacher, understand proficiency, which is in fall, we expect fourth graders to be here, and in winter, we expect them to be here. So when they stay flat, they're actually going up.
True.
Or is it the same, is it end of year proficiency at the beginning of the
The
year?
expectations for in January are higher than they were in September.
Okay.
Yes.
So it moves along with them so that by the final test, it's grade
Should be
level
grade.
expectations.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
End of grade level expectations.
So if you're getting the same percentage all the way through, you actually, and I know it seems counterintuitive, you're actually having growth because the expectations are going up. It's just, you're not reaching
You're not
what we want.
closing any gap there.
Right.
Yeah, we're not.
You want more students proficient each time.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Ann, did you have a question?
Thank you.
Curriculum wise, we went to new reading, right? To match Act 20. So that we've got to give that some time. And I don't have all the words in here, but speaking of the storming, forming, norming, performing, that whole thing, so I think it's not as exciting and as wonderful as we'd hoped in the beginning, but I'd like to see the transition. Because we've got to give the curriculum some time to work. And
3 to 5 years, well, I mean, then we're comparing apples to apples, we have longitudinal data.
And same thing with that tag on in math, because I heard you say we're looking at Act 16 in math. So now we can take these learnings here and know this is going to be a challenge in picking those curriculum to match those standards, because now we have some experience under our belt. Saying this, we've gone through this once. So can we hit the ground running with math, which it seems like we're doing pretty well at now, right? So that we even hit those higher.
Trying to move in a direction to anticipate what some of those mandates will be in the area of math.
Yes.
Context.
So that was the curriculum question there, which, as I mentioned early on, even campaigning, that is not my strong suit, so I'll leave that to other folks. But then I have one more question after that, but if somebody else has others. So.
Anybody else have a question? Carrie?
So I naturally wrote a question about 100-day plans, which you addressed, you're going to be addressing. We can assume the next round that we see probably will look a little different than what we've been used
Those will be starting next month already.
to. And then can you go back to the behavior slide? Secondary, where you call out Washington, Wilson, and Lincoln.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I understood why those 3 buildings were there. I think that you said, for example, the first one, 1,220. Those are not all at Washington, but the majority are at Washington. What did you use for a decision on that? Like what, it was more than 50% identified that trigger to put that building?
I can tell you.
I want to make sure people don't walk away today going, oh my God, there's 220 in Washington kids. And I'm a little nervous about this slide is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And maybe you can
Confirms the
just,
stereotype too, doesn't it?
maybe you can follow up with me
That's fine.
separately, but
Yep, I can give you those breakdowns.
I just want to make sure that we're not walking away saying, that's all Washington. You identified Washington and then Lincoln and then
So
Wilson.
maybe we could just remove those school names after here, just as, before this is shared out, because we did put this on, did not put this out yet, but it's not like we were keeping a secret, we were just waiting to.
So that was 1220, district-wide secondary.
Yep.
And, okay, and Washington just won that category.
And then the other comment,
That's
so that slide, it seems like what those describers are very developmentally where the kids are at. With the exception of cell phones. I mean, that's a whole part of our generation, their generation that we're gonna struggle with for a while, but secondary kids are insubordinate. And they instigate disruptions.
boys.
I'm not saying that makes us data okay. And even the elementary ones where I don't have words to, right? That's developmentally appropriate. So really, then what are we doing developmentally? And I heard you say something about, you know, if we're working with kids and we start to see a decrease in cell phones or whatever, it's working. And simply taking away privileges, we know from research, doesn't necessarily work, depending on what research you read. So I'm not overly excited about the behavior stuff. I think, again, developmentally, these are where these kids struggle. And it's so much of the work that not just administrators, but teachers, all the way to lunch ladies and custodians and everybody that interacts with our students are working to build them as better human beings, right? And hopefully families at home as well. So I appreciate sharing that data. I wanted to just clarify that.
Yep, so Washington was 965, Wilson was 181, and Lincoln was 74.
That makes sense. Why you,
Yeah.
thank you. And then the test participation, there's been several comments. I'm also just curious, are parents opting kids out of any of this type of testing?
Not that I'm aware of.
I mean, we get a handful of those.
So it's more the kids opting themselves out in some cases.
At the high school, absolutely.
Okay. And now that that's been brought to attention, I think we can see, expect to see an improvement in that.
Yes, so we will be reporting that back out in the spring as well.
Yeah, so this is a good time for a question I have, I think, because you're talking about our parents opting out, because what I wrote down here is I drew myself a triangle. And I actually flipped it now when I'm talking about it, putting at the top of the triangle, the kids, our learners, our students over there. What we're intending to do here as a board, inspiring them to thrive in the global community, right? So we have the kids up there, and we've talked about this part of the triangle. What are the teachers doing? What is the staff doing? What is the board doing? What are the directors doing? Where and how, and I know this is a very open-ended question, but how are we involving our parents? All the parents are at different levels. They're part of the community at different socioeconomic, different educational, different backgrounds. How are we tying that cornerstone of that pyramid into all of this? And I know that's a very big, warm fuzzy, but just want to think about it.
You know, parent engagement is something that we are constantly working to improve, because I think, you know, minimally, there's a need to be very, very transparent and open about communication. And, you know, all of our building principals have a family newsletter that goes out weekly. So is there a test or assessment corner as part of that parent newsletter? Are there, like, remember these important dates, or here's how you can help your student be ready at home, and we're fast bridge testing this week. Make sure your student gets a good night's sleep and a big breakfast, and here's some things you could work. Those are all ways to engage families in very manageable ways. So we have some buildings that do a really great job of that, and are age appropriate means of communicating with families. And we have some growth to do. So, you know, conversations that we get to have, and like Heidi said, we push principals get to push staff, and that's just how this works. So,
I mean, I guess I'm asking that as an educational piece for the parents too, because the parents aren't necessarily learning what the kids are. And some of those strategies go hand in hand in helping those families learn those strategies. So it might be those communications you talk about might be the teaching moments if they're opening them and reading.
Yep, and that's the other balance, so, everybody share information. We don't necessarily have a lot of control over what's done with all of that, but that should not stop us from sharing as much as humanly possible. And, again, I think when parents want their kids to do well, our kids want to do well. The only way to help promote that is by helping parents understand what it means for their kids to do well on that test and how, why it's important, and same for our students. Our youngest students can have the ability to understand where they are and what they can work on to get better. So, how are we conveying that importance and being really intentional about sharing that information?
Good questions. I do appreciate the behavior information because I don't remember us ever looking at that. And I think those are things that when we see that hopefully we can address and come up with ways to help that. So it's, I know there's been some improvements in some of the schools this year and I know the community knows that. So I appreciate that.
All right, I'd just like to say, thank you guys. I'm proud of us being an honest institution and bleeding in public like this, whereas the other schools that get our money don't have to do it. Okay.
You are so subtle.
Yeah, well, I wasn't trying to be subtle there.
Associated principal contracts.
Did we talk about that?
Yes, that's next.
Okay. Okay. You don't want to talk to the back of your head. I had shared this information at policy and personnel committee last week. You can see in the memo, we currently in our district have 3 different types of administrator contracts. We have what we call a 260 contract, a 240 contract, and a 210-day contract. If you work a 260 contract or a 240 contract, you actually work the same number of workdays, which is ironic. So the first part of my proposal is just to get rid of the 240-day contract and call it a 260-day contract. The second part of my recommendation is we have 3 categories of people who are currently on a 210-day contract. It's the middle school associate principal, any elementary associate principals we would have, which after this school year, we will not have anybody in that position at all, and our athletic director. Those people work 210 days, plus they get 5 days per diem additional to work. So they really work 215 days. So there's a 13-day difference between our 260-day contract people and our 210-day contract people. I am proposing that we make our associate principal positions at the middle school, elementary, if there ever were to be any in the future, again, and our athletic director, a 260-day position. You can see the rationale. First of all, is summer school. Like way back when, if you were the principal of Madison, you were the principal of the summer school program for the whole district. And that was because Madison was a small school, so it was an additional duty. With our realignment of schools, our schools are now all about the same size. Also speaking from somebody who has done that role as summer school coordinator and principal, solo, it's a big job to do on your own. So with this proposal and those additional days, our associate principals would be kind of the summer school leads. That means they're doing the behind the scenes work, which really starts in like December, to get course registrations and hiring and all the things and the logistics ready for summer school. And then with the athletic director moving from a 210 to a 260-day contract, I would also have the athletic director be the owner or in charge of all the summer school athletic related activities for the district. So right now that is all it had been falling on, previously the Madison principal, but athletic director could really own summer school opportunities. The 2 associate principals would run everything else, K-12 in terms of academics and enrichment. The additional cost would be approximately $17,000. Nathan has assured me that we have money that we can do that for. And I think that it will help our summer programming run more effectively and efficiently, and will give our athletic director oversight over summer programming.
Discussion on this.
The Personnel Committee evaluated this and recommended that it be adopted.
I so move.
Second. Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. And that is passed.
Just as a point of reference, then, just 'cause I know you guys have probably been getting the question, I've been getting the question too, like, when is the athletic director position gonna be posted? Ever since Dan noted his retirement, I've been waiting to see if this would go through first to ensure that the job description is accurate to be moving forward. So now that this is this has been approved, both Lee and I have been working on the job description, we'll get that finalized, we'll have a timeline and a process, and that'll get posted probably in the next week would be my goal. So.
Thank you.
That's good.
Yeah.
You have the parent conferences, correct? Person.
Do I have some parent conferences? What do I have there?
You mean to talk with that, Carrie?
Parent conferences?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we changed the schedule on
Yeah,
that.
working with Director Eichman
Yeah.
in the middle school, the recommendation is right now for spring conferences, middle school kids come for a half day, and then parent-teacher conferences start at like noon or 1 and go for the remainder of the day. We have moved to a model, and it's been happening at the elementary school where it's all-day conferences, like this Thursday's elementary conferences. Teachers are there from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Parents can come anytime. So the recommendation would be for this year to make that middle school parent-teacher conference day a no student day, so parents could come all day. Also, just for your information or moving forward, next year's calendar, elementary, middle school, and high school will all adopt this model to provide flexibility for our parents. We actually get quite a few that want to come in the morning. So the proposal is no school.
We approved that too, but I wondered if this is not just an administrative thing and not an action thing for the board, is it?
It's the school calendar.
It's the calendar.
Oh, it's the school calendar,
Yeah.
okay.
So
I'm sorry.
make a motion.
Okay, I make the motion that we adopt the proposal.
Second, okay, go ahead.
I second. Any other discussion?
Feisty seconding.
Hearing seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. And thank you. We'll move on to the audit presentation. Mr. Shaw.
Yeah, just before we hit Nate's wonderful report that's gonna thrill us all and puts a lot of questions. I've asked, it was on the facilities agenda update Mike gave us regarding the summer projects, as we just talked about a little bit. So I'd like to have him come up before we get to Nate's report of that, just give the entire board an update on the summer projects. As the facilities committee got, just so the full board has an opportunity to hear it once again. Most of us heard it, but I think for the sake of the audience and board's review, hear it again. Mike?
Okay. Well, the first thing that we're focusing on for the summer is moving classrooms, moving teachers and that stuff. That's going to be our main focus to get that completed. We've been talking to a lot of the experienced custodians and that stuff, and I was happy to hear in the last few days, they said, don't worry about this, we've got this. This is going to happen nicely. So we've talked to a moving company and all that kind of stuff. So I think we're in good shape right now. There's a lot of work to do, but we're getting, the colored stickers are laying on my desk. I saw when I got in there tonight and all of that for what goes where and all of that. So I think we've got that handled also, but that's our major focus. Getting into the referendum dollars for this summer, our main focus is going to be the elementary schools to get them into good shape. So they're going to be good for us for the next 5 to 10 years. I want to hit some of the major things that are going through. Today I met with a tuck pointing company out of Milwaukee, and we walked the elementary schools and we did the 2 middle schools. And going to the middle school, I'm putting a 5-year focus on those middle schools to make sure that they're going to last for the next 5 years and we're in good shape. The kids are going to stay warm and all that sort of thing. There's a ton of tuck pointing at Washington and Wilson, and obviously it's right over the entryways that are the major concerns and that stuff. So he's going to be giving us proposals for how to take care of that, and not so much Band-Aid it, but really make sure that we're comfortable there, that thing, because things are falling. Our custodians are picking up bricks and mortar and that sort of thing, so.
When was the last time that was done?
Pointing, it's just been an ongoing thing wherever the hot spots seem to be.
But it's not really, hasn't in the past been scheduled like.
No, it doesn't
every
seem like
year.
it from what I can see.
Yeah.
It was interesting walking with the guy. He says, well, I can see where you've had some work done, and that was about 10 years ago. He can just see that because he's been doing it for 30 years.
Sorry you inherited that, but you're on it now.
Yeah. And on the high school level, we're just entering planning stages now. Me and Mr. Hacker were talking about that today on that phone call. So I'm not planning on doing a whole lot this year, but whatever's necessary, we'll take care of. So, and then the idea of the project manager, we just, Mr. Dennis and Mr. Hacker and myself talked today, and like in a week or so, we'll be looking at deciding who we're gonna use, but we're still in, I call it a moving target as far as what work I'm going to try to take care of and what work we're gonna assign to him. And Mr. Hacker is coming in, I think, Monday. We're gonna do a walkthrough on a few of the buildings and that sort of thing, so. I'm just gonna say I've got the energy to do a lot of this yet, but it all depends where our focus lands, and then I can make my decision, and that'll be quickly. I'll decide on how much work we want to take on as a district and how much we want to give away to a project manager.
Questions for Michael? Thank you for the
Thanks, Mike.
update.
The Manitowoc Public School District audit report. Nate?
So the couple of things I just want to focus on, we'll see we're here for the committee meeting, when we went over this, the anticipated there was an anticipated deficit when they did, when budget, revisions were made back in May. It looked like the district was going to, be about $1 million in the hole. The audit shows that the district actually underspent by 2.68 million in the 24-25 school district. So that money just automatically goes into what's called the general fund balance, and then we'll refer to that back in the coming items where we talk about the baseball field. So that was, I would say that was the biggest, that was the largest of all the findings. $3.68 million swing from a potential deficit to what was actually underspending, which helps buoy our general fund balance, which helps get that up towards 30%, which is what the credit rating agencies like to see out of public school districts, specifically in this state. The two things that and those things they show up at the very last page, are the corrective action plan. So these are things that Lee will hold me accountable for. So the two things specifically, the district needs to do reoccurring bank reconciliations. This has been a finding since 2021. As of last week, we were at 0 for the end of December. So we were the bank and Skyward, which is our ERP system, are reconciled. The variance is at 0. If there's a check that's waiting out there, we know that check hasn't cleared yet, things like that. We have a 0 variance, so we are at a good spot. So tomorrow, one of the things, or not tomorrow, Thursday, I have a session we started digging in on January last week. I have another session planned a couple hours on Thursday to get through the January reconciliation. So now instead of having to sort of look back at sort of this, this expanse of 6 months worth of ACH draws and wire transfers and checks, we can just focus on that month, and from here on out, focus on that month. One of the things Ann has asked is that I have an update about that in every director's report. So I'll be adding that into my director's report from here on out. And the other one Meeting reporting deadlines from the DPI. There's another thing, our initial, the aid certification was in on time, but our audit ran late, and the audit being late holds up a lot of other reports, and that was something that we didn't have cleared up until December. So that's something that, my top goals, being reconciled, getting reports in on time. So that is that'll be the focus of 26, 27 for me, even though I know we have plenty of 24, 25, 26 ahead of us. Those are the things that are top of mind for me in terms of my own performance. So I'll be taking those with me for the next several months as we go through and wind up this year and then get ready for next year. When we start talking about reports and getting the audit in on time and things like that, so.
Thanks, Steve.
Questions?
There's a motion by the Finance and Facilities Committee, made by David Bowman, and second by Ann Polson, passed unanimously to have the board approve the auditor's report submitted by Nathan.
Any other discussion? I have a motion. Do I have a second on that? All right. He's moving it. Do I have a second? Ann, will second? Any other questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay.
Thank you.
And that is passed.
Common school funds, Nathan?
Very clean. We under budgeted $47,650 for common school funds. So this is extra revenue that's coming in. So we're just asking you to approve a budget amendment that would increase expense and create increased revenue.
That motion was made by the Finance and Facilities. Motion to approve common school funds budgeted as presented by Nathan. The motion was made by David, seconded by Ann Polson. So I'm making the motion to the board to approve the transfer of funds.
Second.
The budget amendment.
Second. Second by David. Discussion. All those in favor of the extra 47,000?
650.
Yes. Okay. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. And that is passed.
All right. Oh, never mind. You're next.
The next thing on the agenda was the motion that was made by Facilities Committee and motion made by David, seconded by Ann, to approve the superintendent's capital improvement project policy recommended out of his office. We discussed this at great deal, at great length. And I think that discussion in the notes that Lori put together specifically address the reason for this proposal. So the motion is made to adopt the standard operating procedures, or SOP, for donations and facilities work management for and by the Mantua Public School District. Motion made by David Bowman, seconded by Ann Olson, passed unanimously. So I'm making the motion to approve that action.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ann with a second.
Mary, if you want to take it. Nope.
All those in favor, or discussion, any discussion on it?
I heard Keith call it a policy a couple minutes ago, but then you corrected yourself the next
Correct.
time.
I think this is standard
Procedure.
operation. That is a good question to raise. If it's not in policy, a new superintendent could come in and ignore that policy or that procedure, that course of action. The new superintendent, just like a governor, can come in and wipe out new things. If it's policy, they wouldn't be able to do that as easy.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
do we want to make it a policy or keep it in operating procedure? Operating procedure, a new sup could walk in here and say, I don't like that.
I think it could become an admin guideline.
It's an administrative
Yeah,
guideline
yeah.
more than anything else, but it's technically not a policy, it's a procedure.
Yeah,
So,
right.
in my viewpoint, a board-approved standard operating procedure of this district is the standard operating procedure of this district.
Okay.
And if we're more comfortable housing this in Neola as an administrative guideline. The only trouble that I have with that is I'd have to check if administrative guidelines can stand alone or if they have to be attached to a policy. I think they have to be attached to a policy. So what we could do if we really wanted it as an administrative guideline outlined in Neola, we could adopt a policy that's just probably very general because we're not going to call procedures policies. But if the board's desire is to do that, we could write up a policy that would essentially create the framework for this as an administrative guideline. And I'm comfortable to do it however you would like. Chris.
Thank you. This procedure process, honestly, what it did was it took varying things that are covered in varying policies and pulled them all together. It's all out there in policy if you go through all the policy. And what this did is tie those policies together to say, if this is what happens when there's a project coming in, here's how the process steps through. And all of that is related to policies that we have that are standing. So I really think that this was the best way to do it.
Okay.
I
So
still want to agree with you. However, if I am a member of the public that would like to make a donation or fundraise, I should be able to search this information. And so some of what putting those policy and admin guidelines out on the public website is helpful because it would help guide me. I want to donate $100,000 toward an ice rink. I can say that's not happening.
That's good. That would just get me started.
I think I almost up that most.
200th.
Toward a facility or an event or whatever. It's nice to be able to direct them or at least have that searchable so they direct themselves and you can avoid some of what has happened now at least 2 times. So that's where I would argue with you, just a little bit about, there's a value to pushing this out there.
So is there a way to get that information out there?
Yep. So I'll go and take a look and first of all, I will, Mr. Abel points out, we have some policies that are associated with this. So I will check to make sure we're going to do this right. And if there is a policy that we feel is most associated with it, I can put as an administrative guideline attached to that policy. It's been approved by the board, that's fine. So, yeah, I don't think it requires action because I think I can put administrative guidelines in place.
Because it doesn't change.
Correct.
The policy.
Correct.
I think the personnel policy committee can just review what you.
Yeah, and I'll just include it in a report, how we end up getting it published.
So that ends the discussion. Now we should call this to order. I don't think we're going to that.
No, we haven't, because we're
We
having the
haven't voted on it,
discussion.
so we'll go back and call this a standard operating procedure.
Thank
And then I
you.
can fight. All right.
Okay,
So
we had a
that's the
motion,
motion, it has been seconded.
we had a motion and a second on standard operating procedure. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. And we're moving on.
Next one, is that correct? Still, yes.
Yeah.
Still finance and facilities. The motion was made by the Finance and Facilities Committee, made by David Bowman, seconded by Ann Olson, to approve the baseball field budget amendment of $341,547.19 for expenses incurred. Ann Olson made the motion, and to this amount to be reimbursed to the district and before anything else is purchased. That is what David Bowman seconded. So the motion is to take money out of underspent Fund 10, 2.68 million, pay the debt for this as it is explained, and has to be repaid back to the board. Again, motion by David, seconded by Ann. I so move to the board.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second. Discussion.
So wording again, the 2.68 million is how far off we were on the budget projection, not what we're handing over to the baseball. Correct.
Oh, yeah.
No, okay, so for.
That's why you
We're not
know
handing it.
Okay, So, these next three items, it's my recommendation on all three of them because, the district underspent by such a significant amount, 2.68 million, that we just focus on paying, addressing the bills that have already happened, addressing the other projects we want to get done at the baseball field, that all comes out of the general fund balance. So that went up $2.68 million. So now we're going to, take off of that to address these items that have to go with the baseball field. And that's my recommendation for all three of them.
However, with the motion, that would be paid back to that fund.
Yeah, that's what it says.
That's
The
in-
general-
For that first 345,000.
Yeah, correct.
Would have to, just so we're clear, it can't, a donated dollar can't
Not
be
gonna come
put
back
to the general fund.
Where's it going?
It's gonna go into Fund 49, and then it'll go towards other projects, that the facilities, group wants to take care of. So that's where that money will land.
Thank you for clarifying.
And to piggyback on this from previous discussions, since we're in the discussion here, that we had talked about that $500,000 request earlier on in the previous meeting, which is why the SOP was created, the standard operating procedure. So now we're getting into the actual exact amounts of that with the stipulation it gets repaid to the correct fund. It's the nuts and bolts, it gets repaid.
Yep, it goes to the foundation writes us a check.
Right. Further discussion? Yes.
Second motion.
I did.
Thank you.
No other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both say nay. I abstain. We have an abstain from Mr. Trask, Dr. Trask.
Mr. Spot.
And Professor on H.
H.
Yes.
Yes.
H is the baseball bleachers.
No, we're still on
This was brought up to the Finance and Facilities Committee.
We're still on G with the second part, with the
That's H.
no, what about the concession stand? That was
That's what we're-
that was the itemized.
Yep, that'll be
Okay. Sorry.
Mr. Schwartz provided us with an update on the bleachers quote. And again, I'll do my editorializing here. The bleachers are the responsibility by the Mantua Public School District. We have to have ADA compliant bleachers. It's not the position of a fundraising organization to buy bleachers that the Mantua Public School District is responsible for. Even though it's coming out of the same underspent budget from the board, just to be clear that we would have had to do this, and we should have done it first day this district took over ownership of that baseball diamond. So we tabled this, didn't really table it. I guess we withheld because Mr. Schwartz was going to come back with two quotes or a couple quotes and a final recommendation for us to act on tonight for the purchase of those bleachers. Michael?
We went out and just went online and tried to find some other companies, and we found one called Southern, and I believe they're out of Texas. And when I made the phone call, I was talking to someone in Milwaukee, so he's just their rep here. And he said, oh yeah, we just finished those bleachers for you before COVID, he said, at Rubik Field, the visitors side. So they've done work with us before. So I sent him a site plan, and he just wanted to make sure he could fit in 200 fans, 200 seat bleachers on each side. And he said, yeah, that'll work. And he gave us a bid of
90,185. Yeah. So.
Okay.
And that was
So-
significantly lower than your previous quote.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm going to move to the general board that we go along with Southern Standard, is that what it's called?
Southern, I think, is
Southern Bleacher Company.
Southern Bleacher Company.
Yeah.
For the purchase of bleachers for Steinbrecher Field.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second by David. Discussion.
I
Ann?
am looking for an amendment to this one as well, not the exact same as the previous. So just because, yes, we are required to provide ADA, I agree with that 100%. The board already committed $900,000.
Right.
So because we already committed that money and said we're gonna pay it,
It's
why are
okay.
we picking the bleachers now that's not portion or the add-on? So to me, we've already covered $900,000. Our taxpayers, our
That's already been
community has done that. So the amendment I'd like to see, similar to the last, with the exception that I don't want the students, the next generation of baseball players, to have to suffer and not be able to go on field trips. I want them to be able to go to their places that they want to be able to go. With the exception of that, this also gets repaid from fundraising.
I'll not amend the motion for this reason. If we would have, as soon as the city would have said, the baseball diamond is yours, we should never have let anybody in this community on those bleachers. They were not ADA compliant. In fact, a lawsuit of somebody getting hurt on those bleachers, and you can go look at them, they're still sitting in the parking lot, would have been more than the cost of any bleachers we would have ever had. So it's not part of the baseball, it's part of our responsibility. And the board gave the $900,000 at the request for the turf, not because of the bleachers. Had we not even done anything with the turf, had Rod West not done anything with the turf, if we would have left that baseball diamond alone, we would have had to put new bleachers there because it's ADA compliance, responsibility of the school district. So I don't know why a fundraising organization or a baseball organization should have to pay back a responsibility to the school district. So I'm going to still make my motion that we buy the bleachers, and you can defeat it and amend it all you want. But
Okay, right now we have a proposed amendment. Do I have a second to that amendment? Do I have a second to that amendment? Chris? We got a second. Okay, discussion on the amendment. Chris, go ahead, Chris.
I'll just say everything I was gonna say anyway. I am perfectly fine with saying that we're counting on them to ultimately raise this money and pay us back. I don't think they need to not do their regular stuff in the meantime. And I am confident that they will continue to fundraise and they will make us whole, not only on this, but on the next item as well, because they have already shown that they are hardworking and sincere in the fundraising. The issue I brought up 3 years ago when we first looked at this is everybody says we're going to fundraise, but then you go, are you going to be successful? They have been quite successful. So I'm okay with doing that. I understand the risk that we are assuming by doing that, which is should they fail to make up the rest, well, then what they don't make up, we will quite literally end up eating. But that's what happens in that system. It's all right to put it on there, and hopefully we'll do that. Now, one other thing I want to say to preclude us from any liability is if you decide to go onto those bleachers in the parking lot right now, you are doing so at your own risk, and this board does not encourage doing that. How you address Mr. Shaw, should you be injured by listening to his suggestion, would be between you and him and not the rest of us. And the last thing I'd like to say is, we got here, and the whole reason we have the SOP is we got here because this was not a case of the left hand not knowing what the right hand was doing. This was literally a case of the left hand not knowing what the left hand was doing. And the right hand. And still not knowing what the right hand was doing, because the right hand had talked to the left hand that was a board of none of us that are here today. And they were following the directions they got from that board, all with good intentions, and that board gave them direction, all with good intentions. And sometimes things get a little kerfuffled in that situation. Kerfuffled. Yeah, kerfuffled.
Yeah, okay.
Use that word.
Other comments? I'm not gonna vote for this because I go back to Rubeck Field when they had to replace the visiting bleachers. had the district not done that, there would be no bleachers on that side of the football field. Because they were in terrible shape, you couldn't fix them.
Yeah.
We had to put up new bleachers that met state law. The other thing I look at is we as a district do have a responsibility to provide a place for kids to play baseball if that's going to be part of our district. And not just high school kids, but the younger kids and the other kids that will use that field. And we are getting a really nice field for the amount of money, the tax money that we are putting into it because of this group that did a lot of fundraising. It's very simple. And just because we're from Manitowoc doesn't mean that we can't have nice things for our kids. And that bugs me. And it's always, it bugs me because I look at the past and what they did to give kids in Manitowoc things equal to other places. All right, I go up and I look at the football field at Pulaski and De Pere and places, and even though we have a nice facility, it's amazing what they have. It's amazing when I go and look at facilities at other schools when I was a coach and things that kids were playing on. And they do stuff for their students. Southern Door has an indoor football facility. Plymouth has one. And my question is, we have a group that has donated a lot of money, fundraised a lot of money to make something special for our kids. I think we can step up and at least put the amount of money in that would have just been if we had done the bare minimum there. There were no bleachers there when we got the place from the city because the bleachers were in bad shape. So they gave us a field that would not have had bleachers.
Yeah.
So what, people are going to sit on the grass? We have to do something to make the facility a little nicer. And I think putting bleachers in that meet state's law is part of that. And I think the extra money we gave for the field to make a turf in the long run will save us money, as it's doing at Rubeck, because we don't have to do the maintenance on it that you do for real grass. So I think we got a good deal by this group coming in and fundraising. And I really believe the least we could do is to put up bleachers to make a place for people to sit and to watch the game. And the least we can do is have a good facility for all the kids that are going to use that field. So I think it's our responsibility. So I will vote no on the amendment.
So we voted on the amendment?
No, we haven't, because we're still discussing. Any other discussion on it?
Just want to make
Yes.
a point, like, it's the theme of the meeting tonight. Somebody didn't take care of tuck pointing, so now it's Mike's problem. Somebody didn't take care of reconciliation, so now it's Nate's problem.
Yeah.
Somebody didn't take care of squaring away this baseball stuff, all parts of it, and so now it's become the board's problem. So we're inheriting the problems that came before us, and we have a tough decision to make. I understand your point of view. Our taxpayers are a little ticked off right now, right? But I also understand kids need a place to sit and safely sit. So I think we can sit and point the finger or be frustrated, or we can say we're gonna have to bite the bullet here and move on. And as you said, the SOP is in place to avoid this in the future. And hopefully, like Mike and Nate, we're starting to make some plans here to smooth things out. And kudos to our new superintendent, who is seeing those problems, right? And directing his team, and he complimented them tonight. He should probably take them to breakfast or something tomorrow, because on top of their regular job, they're busy fixing problems that were caused in the past. So I'll get off my soapbox now. But I want to make the point that we're a little frustrated right now. Let's be careful where we're targeting that. and be respectful of each other as we've been pretty successful. Point made?
Yeah, very
I'll be
well
there.
said, yeah, yeah.
Any other discussion? Thank you,
I'm
David.
going to say I would vote against it as well because from my perspective, we're getting a Cadillac for the cost of a Camry. You know, we're getting something high end and we didn't spend $2.8 million. We're spending less than $1 million. So I think this is well within our responsibility.
Spending what?
I don't remember the total number because we gave 900,000.
Yeah, we gave 900,000 to start.
Another 534 today.
But Carrie, you must understand that the previous board that Chris referred to said that we were gonna buy the turf,
We're gonna do the.
not get donated funds for it.
Right.
Okay, so I call the question on that.
Okay, so any other discussion? We got.
I voted against that too.
Okay. All those in favor say aye of the amendment.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Nay. Okay, so the amendment fails. Now we'll go on to the
Original motion.
yeah, original motion.
Carrie, what was your vote?
I voted nay. Yeah.
So, the original motion is that, the district will take care of the bleachers.
Southern,
Yes.
Yes,
We will.
over 90,000.
I like how concisely you put that.
Well, maybe people even, right?
Do we know?
Well, no, we got the bid.
We got it.
We got cheaper than we thought last week.
Yeah, yeah.
100,000 cheaper.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion on the original motion? Original motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the original motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, and we move on then to the concession stand.
the last thing was brought up about this with the use of the underspent, 10 general fund. The motion to approve the baseball field concession stand, presented and stipulated by the district is to be reimbursed and moved forward to motion by Ann Bolzmann, Olson and David Coleman to send this to the full board for approval. Again, it was to approve the final expenditures on that, with the added portion that is to be fully repaid to the board by the committee, fundraising committee. So I make
Yeah.
a motion to send it to the board.
So we have a motion to have the concession stand reimbursed by the group raising funds when that comes, but to get the work done. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
David with the second. Any discussion on this? Hearing seen none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. And that is done. Long-term capital plan.
Did you
I
abstain?
make-
No, I
And
voted.
I say this again, this is only the beginning of the Finance and Facilities Committee's fun times. You're all welcome to attend these meetings.
All right, at the end.
But the fun is just beginning. This is a long-term capital improvement plan. As you recall, a couple of months ago, it was questioned by Mary Lofty Blahnik whether or not we had a Fund 46 project. And I tabled a motion saying, because we were going to talk about the baseball field, I tabled a motion at that time to investigate, or Nate to investigate, whether we did have a fund of which the baseball project was incorporated in. Well, it was, along with 57 other pages that Nate discovered was in this Fund 46 plan. In that plan were millions and millions and millions of dollars of expenditures that was supposed to come out of Fund 46 and ESSER funds. And I still don't understand
Right,
ESSER funds, but I guess it doesn't
They're gone
matter
now.
now.
Yeah.
But anyway, the board of 623 or 624 approved that plan. But that was prior to full committees that were appointed by then President Chris Abel. So this huge document was passed with all of these expenditures in it. including the baseball field, including a new turf in 3 years for Lincoln, including new bleachers, and I mean, you name it, it was in there. And it sort of looked like the old CISA 10 document that was presented to us under the File administration. It read pretty much verbatim. So to me, that document, in looking and working with Nathan, is no longer function. So I talked to a good friend about how to phrase this motion. So my motion is to rescind the acting long-term capital plan. No longer make it valid. And then direct the team, administration and business and finance and facilities, to come up, as Nathan said, a list of 20 new projects that would be possibly added to this approved by the board Fund 46 plan, of which, once a project was completed, the funds were available and used, a new one was added, and we had an ongoing rotating basis of projects that we knew as a board were coming out of this designated plan. So again, my motion was to rescind the current plan, no longer viable, and create a new one.
Boy, I'd second that. I mean,
You just did.
You just did. We have a motion and a second to rescind, I believe it was it.
I think I was away when that vote was taken.
But I think it was unanimous, Kerry, so I don't know what you voted.
I believe it, was it 100 million, the total on that?
Yeah, I think so.
I didn't go to that, like, I kind of printed it
You
off.
just gave it to me, I tagged it.
Yeah, he did the deep dive. My point was like, when everything's on a plan or on a list, then nothing's on the list. We need to just, take a look at what we need right now, focus up and get things on that plan. So then as we're looking at 26, 27 budgets, we can start getting things in the queue that Fund 46 can fund on top of the work that's being done with the referendum dollars. So just, get it on one spreadsheet, one tab, and we can work on that.
So when Mr. Shaw gives us these history lessons, do we have to pay tuition for the lecture series?
He's a public intellect.
You're lucky it was only that short a history lesson. I could have gone.
The Rising Phoenix.
But it further proves my point that we're cleaning up the mess of the past.
Yes. But if you're auditing,
That was a
you don't
messy
get to use it
pass.
for credit.
All right, any other discussion on this? Very good.
Right away, as a
Without
matter of
knowing.
fact.
No, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. I will make my remarks short and sweet. It is so wonderful to see kids come. Okay.
Yeah.
And the other thing I gotta say is, it is so nice to have discussions and to be able to look at people and still
Thanks, Steve.
realize that there's respect. And you don't know, guys, how good that feels, being in government for a lot of years, and just, it's good. It's a good thing.
It's only gonna get worse in this county.
No, we'll be fine.
Isn't it?
We'll be fine here. So, that being said, future dates, possible second meeting this month, but for right now, it doesn't look like it.
No, I think we have one Thursday, second.
Mr. Shaw, anything for a second meeting this month? Do you have anything that soon?
I think our meeting will be the first Tuesday when we have the people for our appeal, yeah.
So, nothing that you're approved yet?
And we'll let you know if that other meeting has to happen. And the other, Lori will come up with the dates for the committees that week before the next board meeting. That being said, we will now convene into closed session, we'll deliberate the negotiating or purchasing public properties, investing public funds under the state law pursuant to section 1985 1E of the Wisconsin statutes. And what we are discussing in closed session is compensation strategies for staff. So I would look for a motion to go into closed session. I have a motion, do I have a second? Second by Mary. And Lori, will you do the roll call?
Christopher Abel.
Aye.
David Bowman.
Sure.
Tiff Hansen.
Sure.
Ann Olson.
Aye.
Mary Wolfie Blonick.
Aye.
Keith Shaw. Carrie Trask. Thank you.
She does it alphabetically.
Just so you. So,
We're still.
Yeah.
yes.
I should have.
Why don't we take a short break? It should not be a long closed session, but let's take a short break so this.
Because we're in the second half, so let's wrap this up.
I was just saying, you need an update.